Well, hey there, folks. So, my name is Katie, and I'm the caretaker here with my wife, Caroline Stevens. And we're just so happy to welcome you all to this special place tonight on a June day that is really characteristically Montana June day with some clouds. I heard some thunder this morning, some now glorious sunshine, and some golden light. So, for those of you guys who don't know, this place is considered a historic site, mostly because of the buildings and artifacts that were left behind by the Moon and Randolph families. The Moon family homesteaded the site in 1889, and the Randolphs bought the place in 1907, and they lived here until 1995. Of course, both families, they eked a living out of this marginal land, and they housed themselves with repurposed materials. The barn is made out of old railroad boxcar siding. A lot of the fence lines are made out of old railroad ties and car parts. And, you know, the creativity and ingenuity of low-income folks like the Moons and Randolphs have made Missoula, you know, this quirky and vibrant community that we all love today. Of course, history did not begin in 1889. And long before the Moons constructed their cabin and planted this orchard and fenced off this short grass prairie, there was a trail into these hills that was traveled by the Salish, the Kalispé, the Kasanka, the Nimipu, Amskapi Pikuni, and others for hundreds of years. And they traveled on these trails to visit with friends and family, to trade, and to complete their seasonal round, hunting bison out on the plains and digging for bitterroot in the hills that surround us. And these peoples and these lifeways, rooted in long-standing relationship to place, were disrupted by homesteading and by agriculture and by colonization. Yet these peoples and these lifeways persist despite tremendous challenges. And the Salish still tell stories dating back to the last ice age, 14,000 years. And that is a timeline, historic timeline, and relationship to place that I can only begin to fathom. You know, as a caretaker, one of my jobs is to interpret this site. And I do so by focusing on the history of people here and the land. But of course, there's more that this place has to offer, which is why I so look forward to hearing what others, and especially what artists, make of this place. A grassroots effort of Northside residents preserved this site in the early 2000s, and it was their vision to host artists in residence at this site. This place just really lends itself to that artistic eye. But for so long, we lacked the capacity to recruit, to vet, to house, and to show artists in their work, which is why we've been so thrilled to partner with Open Air over the years. And this was a brilliant idea, and now a really highly successful nonprofit that places artists with nonprofits like us all over Western Montana. So thank you to Open Air, and without further ado, I will turn it over.
Thank you, Katie. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see you all here today. My name is Kelly Sinner, and I'm the program coordinator for Open Air. And I'm going to read Michelle's bio, and then we'll see what she has in store for us. Michelle Boule is a Missoula-based dance artist, transformational life and business coach, and energy healing practitioner. Dance is a language she uses to combine all of her passions in consciousness, healing, aesthetics, spirituality, and the inherent order of our natural world. Boule has received choreographic commissions, presentations, and artist residencies from multiple institutions in New York, where she lived for 21 years, and internationally. She has also had the pleasure of receiving multiple awards, including a New York Bessie for Performance, the Distinguished Legacy Award from the University of Illinois, the New York Foundation for the Arts Choreography Fellowship, the Bokenheide Creative Award, Jerome Foundation Travel and Study Grant, and a New Music USA grant. She has been featured in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Dance Magazine, and as a coach in Thrive Global, The Today Show, and Bloomberg Radio. She has danced, taught, choreographed in over 25 countries, and serves an international clientele in her coaching practice, which helps creatives manifest their visions with clarity, confidence, and aligned prosperity. So everyone, welcome Michelle.
Oh, Daddy. like to, you're welcome to choose a blanket and lie down and rest. Or the grass, but welcome. We're not done yet. You might be cozy. Yeah. Make a new friend. We are going to do a little, you guys look so cozy. We're going to do a little talk back, I'm going to share a little bit about my process. So I don't know, where should we do this now?
I'm planted.
April speaks. But we need a mic. Do I need a microphone? Yeah. Okay. So feel free to go wherever you want to go. I can do 360. I don't know if you.
Bluetooth pairing. Bluetooth connected.
So we have a little distance, but just sit as you would like. I'm Michelle Boule, and this is Curtis Tam. Yay! Curtis and I met at the Bemis Center at an artist residency in Omaha, Nebraska. And I saw Curtis, I walked into one of the rehearsal studios, and Curtis was sitting intently in the middle of 4 speakers, just like super still. And I was like, who is this guy? And eventually I think our first collaboration, I might have used some of your sound for a piece at the New School or something. Also a piece I choreographed on a company in Minneapolis. Curtis designed the sound for a solo I did in 2017 called The Monomyth. That was the right year. And some of these things, if you didn't get, there's a little there's a little card that Open Air made for me because there's no Wi-Fi. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been trying to check your phones, but there's not much service out here. So they made this wonderful card that has work samples on it, a little bit of information about what's coming up next, and ways you can donate if you want to. And just with that segue, I do want to say thank you to Open Air, Stony, Kasia, and Kelly. Just amazing. I think it's always, looking at another artist who's been to many residencies, I feel like when a residency space is artist run, and you can feel the real priority of the artist, it makes such a difference. So thank you so much for that to all of you. And then also thank you to, hi you guys. Thank you to, where are they? On the purple blanket. Katie and Caroline. Okay. It's been a real treat to be here. I have to stop moving my hand on this thing. What do I want to say about this? Obviously, it's a beautiful place. My intention for this residency was like, thank God they extended the deadline because I was like, oh my God, I didn't know about this. Let me apply. And I wanted to come home. That was my theme. And that was related to the fact that I started dancing less just before the pandemic. And I left New York City just before the pandemic. And I really built my coaching business pretty extensively, which I also love. I love teaching and facilitating other people. But then I also found out I was kind of miserable on some levels. Oh my God, it'll make me cry. Because I wasn't tending to my creative soul. And so, like, this is the first residency I've had since, I guess 2019. But I got to be here in an unusual studio because I was like, where do I lie down on the floor? That was one of my first questions for Kate. I'm like, can you give me a blanket? Because I spend a lot of time on the floor in the studio, kind of like at sometimes an hour or two, just like moving really subtly, kind of doing nothing. And so I did some of that. I kind of sat around. It rained. The snakes came. The mosquitoes came. Leo the dog, who has not made an appearance tonight, the 14-year-old dog who's an amazing companion, always comes to say hi, would show up. He pooped in my tent the first day I was here. He like walked through my tent, pooped, and I like walked and pooped again. That's kind of amazing. And actually, the beginning of the piece, if you know the painting Christina's World, Andrew Wyeth, that kind of was there for me, and also Leo, because Leo doesn't have muscles in the back of his body really, and in that painting, Andrew Wyeth saw this woman, I think her name was Christina, I believe, who couldn't walk, but she refused to use a wheelchair or anything to assist her, and she would crawl across the field. And so Andrew had I believe his wife model for her for that painting. And the field has also been an interest of mine. In the last body of research that I was doing prior to this, I did call the field, and it was related to the quantum field. And Lynn McTaggart, I don't know, there might be an MC in there, has a book called The Field, and she's a journalist who wrote about the development of quantum science and quantum theory. Admittedly, I did not finish the book, but I did read it, and as an energy healing practitioner, that's a realm I've been trained to work in, and in meditation too. And I would say part of the P's are hard on this thing. Part of an interest in mine too is not pushing anymore and not forcing. So it was only about maybe 2 weeks ago I was like, maybe we just lie down. And I was like, maybe let me call Curtis, because Curtis has, I don't know if Curtis, you want to say anything, done a bunch of field recordings, like out in a national park recording volcanoes or bells. And I was like, Curtis is perfect. Of course, again, like, let's, and he was available, thankfully. So I feel like we really just kind of made an Insta dance, add hot water and stir, just from like a couple ideas that surfaced. And Curtis literally arrived yesterday. We had kind of 2 run-throughs. We talked about ideas, ran it through twice. Today it stormed like crazy. So we, instead of rehearsing, we moved that wall tent from over there and didn't have any rehearsal really. But that's how it goes. And this is a sketch. I don't know what will happen with it next. But I feel really grateful to be given, I mean, isn't it beautiful? It's like, what better place to invite you all to experience something. So I guess at this point, I'll say one more thing and then I think I'm done, and would be happy to answer any questions. I think one of the most beautiful things we can do is start to see our world creatively. And that is an interest of mine in these spaces that are not controllable, like a black box theater, started to bore me. Like, I love that I just see that person walking up there. They're disappearing now. And I know as an artist too, when I'm not pushing, I can receive. And I don't know if you, I feel like art can be a vehicle for that, to just get out of, I mean, duh, right? But yes, like to stop and consider something different, to even the present moment. So I do, one of my interests also is just how can we all remember our own creativity. And I have a whole thing I've been doing on Instagram for a while with the hashtag honor your inner creator. If you, that's, it feels so vital. I'm done. So, thank you. Curtis, thank you. Yeah. And if if anyone has questions, I don't know what might work best for the recording. You could say your question. I could repeat it. You're welcome. You're welcome to come up and have a turn at the mic. If you feel ambitious. Shelby.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering with some of the sound, if any of it was recorded on site, and kind of especially with those animal sounds. I was curious about.
Curtis, do you want to speak to this?
Um,
Do you want to come here? Do you mind?
is it necessary? Do I have
No, you don't have to.
No, nothing was recorded on site.
Okay.
But, I mean, it is striking that you can take a sound from a different place, and if you play it at the right volume, it seems to just kind of meld, and I think that speaks to, like, this real coherence, you know, between different sites of you know, like natural sound. That it's so easily transportable.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I think about it, there wouldn't have been much time for that, but it fit in really well.
Oh.
There was a nice moment yesterday. We did one run through. It was just like, hi, just nice to see you again after 6 years of not working together for 6 years, right? I mean, we emailed a couple things back and forth, and I used your sound for some stuff. The glacier dances that are on that little piece of paper, that's Curtis's sound too. But we were just kind of sitting. I was trying to alter this dress, so I was sitting with like the sewing thing, and Curtis is playing with sound, and we're trying to figure out what to do with that blanket moment. And I started telling the story of the buffalo, and because Sunday I was at a meditation, and I finally learned what the wallows are, and we just started talking about that, and then and then Curtis like, oh, I have buffalo sounds, or like, oh, let's try that. And it just can seem like this meandering conversation, but it gave us something we were looking for. So I feel like that's such a beautiful thing about art too. It's like, you can't put the thing at the start of the production line and know where it's going to go, like in a factory or something that's industrial that way. And I so love the meandering nature of creativity. Tony.
I love how you weave in references, or like you have an interesting way that you are thinking about paintings or this sound or this idea that came up. Are there any others that are juicy for folks who experience this with you today to think about as part of the process today that you'd like to share?
That's a great question. Thank you. Well, one of them, when I rolled out of the bushes, if you saw me do that, it's because my friend Cinna is here and she loves pandas on Instagram, and I love pandas now too. they roll around. I was like, this is a roll. It just, it was so, yeah. Did you notice, Cinna?
Oh, it was very playful.
But I when Stoney and Kelly and Kasia came for my studio visit, the books I've been carrying around are World Receivers, which is a catalog from a show that was Georgina Houghton. I'm trying to think of the order. I think it was Hilma af Klint first, and then Emma Kuntz. And it's a beautiful catalog, and it's a score that I work with like as a receiver. Because I do feel like, because I had so many injuries, my question was always, how can I allow my body to be available for something greater to move through me? So that led to a lot of somatic study. It led to then energy healing, because I kept getting injured. I was like, oh, this isn't sustainable. What's the next piece of information to be able to continue dancing? Emma Kuntz did drawings that she used a pendulum to create, and they were not. I don't have the book; it's in my car, but I can pull it out if anyone wants to see it afterwards. There's a beautiful quote where the healing was more important than the art. She didn't consider. She wasn't like, I'm making art. She wasn't even formally trained. I think she was trained by a family that she lived with that was, one of the people in the family had an artistic practice. Something like that. I'm not always good with the details, but I think that quote is really beautiful. And she she would heal people from incurable diseases. Like there was a boy who had polio, and his dad was determined for him that he would heal. And he heard of Emma Coons, I think, from the Mail Person in the 1900s, of Mail People. Yeah, something like that. And she tuned into him. She's like, "There's a stone near your house that will heal your son's polio." So they made a poultice from that stone and put it on him repeatedly. She had a really specific diet that she had for the boy, and he was cured of polio. And she says, these are not miracles. This is how the universe operates. And that's actually something in my coaching work too, is I really studied the universal laws. And in energy healing work too, it's like what we think is a miracle is actually a deeply inherent order. So that's a big reference, and I feel like similar to BT, if you saw BT's talk last week, I have a responsive nature. I came here, the wall tent was over there. I was like, what am I doing with this wall tent over here? I tried dancing over there, and then I kind of spread over to here. And then it was like a rainy day, so I went into a studio in town, and then I just started seeing this space, which I was introduced to as the parking lot. And just response, and eventually an inherent order in the moment shows up. And I don't know, like, there's like a place where the grass goes flat there, and that's what I jump into. I feel like living in a space long enough, even though maybe it was only like 2 weeks of kind of playing with this space, and sometimes I would just come here and lie down on that blanket and just write or read or rest or do Feldenkrais on top of a picnic table, and that was it. So I guess it kind of lends itself to also like how can our lives continuously be a creative act. And here's a really cool thing too. Shelley Sachs, who was I don't know if she studied with or she's in the lineage of Joseph Beuys. She's an amazing woman, and I was following her work for a while, and we communicated a bit because she was using theory, but in a way that was so embodied. So I was able to connect to it, and I think it was at a UN summit where she was speaking, maybe in Stockholm, and I was in Stockholm at the time, and she would use the word anesthetic, which is to numb, but that aesthetic can actually unnumb us. So that's something I incorporate into a movement practice that probably when I lead a workshop later this year, I will, if you want to come, you do not have to be a dancer. I've led it with people and everyone falls asleep. But like, there's a prompt in there where eventually I invite the people to notice your experience now as a poem. I'm just watching this bird. You know, notice your experience as a poem. Notice it as a song. Notice it as a dance. You don't have to change anything, but it is, because your perspective shifted. Yeah. Anyone else? Bueller. Well, I think there's refreshments. I'm not leaving anytime soon. If anyone wants to say hi, I'll bring my books out. It's not raining. And just thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I don't know if we'll ever do this again. We'd love to. Actually, the woman who's coming here next, Carrie Rosenstein, she makes blankets. She makes these beautiful blankets. I was like, where are you? Can you give me? She didn't have, she's out of town right now. Yeah, thank you for being here. I think that is here and gone. Thank you.